And now, for some insane headlines of the day. He visited Disneyland 2,995 days in a row. It's now a Guinness World Record. 2,995 days in a row from NPR. A California man recently set a Guinness World Record for most consecutive visits to the Disneyland theme park with 2,995 straight days of visits. This breaks down to 8 years, 3 months, and 13 days. Who is he? Jeff Wrights. He lives about 30 minutes from Disneyland in Huntington Beach, California, He was at the theme park on New Year's Day in 2012 when he and his friends noticed an advertisement for an extra Disney day. It was an event celebrating February 29th, the additional day coming up that leap year. Wrights told NPR, "We were joking around. How could it be an extra day if you didn't use the others?" One way of looking at it, I suppose. So they set out to use all the other days, too. They were unemployed at the time. I think that goes without saying. So this was an opportunity to do something positive with their time instead of dwelling on their situation, he said. Those were the only two options, dwell on the unemployment or hit Disneyland every fucking day. He said, "We could still do job hunting in the morning or night, and we got exercise. And you were always networking because you never knew who you were talking to." I love how good of a job he did at spending 2,995 consecutive days at Disneyland into some type of a positive lifestyle choice. It says, once they reached their goal of visiting the park all 366 days that year, he just kept going. How did he keep it up? That first year, Wrights was able to go to the park daily with an annual pass that his family gifted him in December of 2011. He later got a job at a medical center and began purchasing his own passes. That's a big step. Big step. Big life step that I think we all look forward to. It says to him, the daily visits were a constant source of joy. He said, "It was my gym. It was my happy hour. It was entertainment, all in one package. You know, instead of paying for a separate membership for doing lots of different things, it was all in one package with my annual pass." Okay. I don't know how it qualifies as a gym. And really, happy hour, were you drinking every day that you went to Disneyland? Like, was alcohol an everyday part of this? Because that happy hour generally is considered to be, partaking in adult beverages in a social setting. Is that at a certain time of day? I'm just trying to understand here. I'm just trying to understand what would drive a man to spend 2,995 days doing any fucking thing that many days in a row. That's a lot of but anyway, Wright said that at the beginning, the annual pass would cost around $500. In the later years, it was $1,400. It's that goddamn inflation. It got him. He said, "So for me, going every day, even at the end, was only about $3.50 a day. So about the same as someone going to buy a cup of coffee." Okay. Doesn't sound as financially devastating when you put it in those terms. And then it says, what happened to his streak? Wright said his last day at the park was March 13th, 2020, the last day before the theme park closed due to the pandemic. He was 5 days away from reaching the 3,000 mark. And yes, it was Friday the 13th. Fucking COVID, man. When you think of all the shit that it threw off in the world, he was 5 days from 3,000, and they shut it down. They should have let him, just him, solo, Wrights. They should have let his ass back in the park for 5 more days. That should have been his reward for going 2,995 days in a row. The fact that they didn't tells me a lot about Disney as a corporation. It says to Wrights, though, being forced to stop along with the rest of the country was better than the alternative. What was the alternative? Is this about to take a dark turn? He says that ending his visits at an arbitrary round number on a day when other people were still visiting the park would have probably brought some FOMO. Okay. He wanted an odd number. Says he hasn't been back since that day. Holy shit. He went 2,995 days in a row, stopped because of the pandemic in 2020, and has not gone back. And it says while he wants to return at some point, he doesn't have concrete plans yet. He said he doesn't have any bad feelings toward Disney, although he wasn't a fan of the new Magic Key annual pass system that began during the pandemic and requires reservations before visits. He said, "For me personally, I didn't like the idea that I could go every day before whenever I wanted, whereas now you have to make reservations." Yeah, man, that's a pain in the dick right there. You were going every fucking day. What difference does it make? Just sign up for every day. It says in the meantime, he has replaced his Disneyland visits with catching up on shows going to concerts or hikes, and spending time with his girlfriend. I'm supposed to believe this guy's got a girl. If she exists, and that's a big if, I want to place a wager that they cosplay as Mickey and Minnie Mouse in the bedroom, sexually. What an absolutely insane use of time. But then again, as someone who spent 1,000 hours of 2020 playing video games live on Twitch, or also the opening of this podcast talking about how you never know what someone else is going through, who am I to judge? 2,995 days in a row. That is 8 fucking years. Unbelievable. An unbelievable amount of time to spend in Disneyland. And that it started out with just, we could do the 366 days on this leap year. And then he just didn't stop. And then he was 5 days from the 3,000 mark. 8 years, 3 months, and 13 days of his life consecutively going to Disneyland. That is 2,995 days is wild as hell. He's the Cal Ripken of Disneyland. That record is never going to be broken. I don't know whether to be impressed or incredibly depressed